novels and notions. And today we're going to talk about my November TBR. If you can hear it in my voice, actually last week when I'm filming this, I had COVID. So I still have like kind of remnants of, just 100% trying to get rid of all the stuff from that, but I'm feeling a lot better. It's been a few days since I've really had symptoms. So today we're going to talk about my November TBR, which I'm excited about. It's weird that we only have 2 months left of the year. So I'm really getting serious about trying to get some of the overall goals that I wanted to accomplish and, series I wanted to make a lot of progress in or finish this year, really kind of buckle down and get those goals completed in the last 2 months. So between those things, and I'm doing again Tori's Roll for Reads game to help pick some of my prompts. And I'm going to be very casually participating in Bucket Listathon by Danny Dabbles, which is going on in the month of November. I think sometimes I choose to do too many things. And I went into planning for November really saying, I don't know that I want to do any readathons. Like, I kind of just want to break so that I can focus on the books I know I want to read before the end of the year. But the readathon itself is structured to help with things you want to get done before the end of the year. So I'm probably not going to film any of it. I don't want the pressure on myself. But I'll link Danny's video down below so that you can go ahead and check out this really amazing readathon that she has designed. I think this is the 3rd year that she has done this, so I'm excited. This is my first time participating, but again, I'm just going to be really casual about it and use the game board when I, don't know what I want to read next from my TBR, and kind of be a little bit more casual and flexible with myself in terms of participating in that. Okay, from there, we're just going to jump right into the Roll for Reads TBR based on Tori's TBR game that I've been working on every month. Okay, we're doing our Roll for Reads rolls. So we're going to start out just doing 3 and see how many books that gives us. So first roll, that is a 2. And the first number I rolled was a 2, which is Animated Armor, which I have gotten before in a previous month. I don't remember if it was in last month or before that when I wasn't filming my TBR, but Animated Armor, an empty steel shell that clamors as it moves, heavy plates banging and grinding against one another like the vengeful spirit of a fallen knight. It follows its last command from its creator, which is kill, and it's enchanted with scripted speech to issue a warning. Turn back now or face my wrath. So this comes with 200 XP for your character if you finish the prompt. And the prompt is to read a book with a destructive or unpredictable antagonist. And for this one, I'm going to go with the next book in the Lady of Darkness series. I think it's still quite a few days before October ends. I think I'm going to read Lady of Ashes in October. So if that is the case, then the next one that I will read in November is Lady of Embers. This is a series that I've really been enjoying, but have a really hard time, apparently, according to my October TBR video, of describing it well for you. But the premise is we're following Scarlet, who is a trained assassin, and she and her sisters were trained to be assassins and to take life. They're really feared in this kingdom, and something happens that leads Scarlet to be living with this noble family, and she, is kind of in a limbo space, but she's given a job, And if she completes her assignment, she will be able to take revenge on the Fae Fire Prince who killed her mother 10 years ago. So she just has to do this job and she will be able to get her revenge. But while all of this is happening, children are disappearing from their part of the city, and she's trying to figure out what's going on, where these children are disappearing to, and contending with other characters and other relationships. There's a newcomer in who she doesn't know that has kind of entered her life and the lives of people she cares about. So she's got a lot going on that she's contending with. The series really broadens and expands from there, but I won't talk about it so that I don't put any spoilers in. But I really enjoyed the 2 books that I've read so far, Lady of Darkness and Lady of Shadows, and I'm hoping, I would love to finish this 4 or 5 book plus novella series by the end of the year if I can. So I think I will either be reading Lady of Ashes or Lady of Embers in November. I will count that for the animated armor prompt of an unpredictable or destructive antagonist, because there's a couple different antagonists in this series, definitely, that are destructive. Roll number 2 is a 6. Okay, roll number 2 got me a 6, which is a Banshee. I've also gotten this one before. I don't think it was last month, but it says, when night falls, unlucky travelers hear the faint cries of the forlorn dead. This woeful spirit is a banshee, a spiteful creature formed from the spirit of a female elf. Banshees' faces are wreathed in a wild tangle of hair, its body clad in wispy rags that flutter and stream around it. A banshee becomes forever bound to the place of its demise, unable to venture more than 5 miles from there. These creatures covet beautiful objects, fine jewelry, paintings, statues, and other objects of art. They abhor any mirrored surface, for it can't bear the horror of its own existence. And this comes with 1,100 XP points and a side quest option, which I didn't do. So we're just going to ignore that because I have another side quest later. But the prompt is to read a book that has death as a theme in the book, or a ghost-like being, something to do with death or ghosts in the story. So for this prompt, I am picking The Undermining of Twyla and Frank. I have a copy right here. This is a Fairy Loot copy. I think I actually bought this one from Fairy Loot. I have the first one, which is The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy, which I read a few years ago and absolutely loved. I think I bought that one secondhand used because this copy of the second book was coming out from Fairy Loot and I really loved it and wanted it. In the meantime, the third book has come out. Haven't read the second book. Don't have the third book in the Fairy Loot edition to match the first 2, so maybe I'll have to try and buy that on Pango or something at some point. But this is a friends to lovers story. The series takes place in the town of Eternity, and there is this kind of secondary place within the town. It's hard to describe, but it's kind of like almost like another realm within the town, or just this area over here where danger occurs, and there are characters called Tanrian Marshals that are trying to protect the town from the dangers within this space that I'm really not remembering what that area is called. This book follows Twyla and Frank, who are both Tanrian Marshals. They're best friends. I believe they're actually older characters, maybe in their 50s actually. It's a friends to lovers romance. I think they're both kind of dealing with, I don't know how far in the past this happened, but I think they both had prior spouses that passed away. So you got the theme of death in that way. And then some of the creatures in this space that they're fighting are kind of zombie-like. So I think between those two things, this will definitely work for a book with death as a theme in it. It's been a while since I've read the first one, but I really loved it when I did. So I'm hoping to finally get to the second book, maybe even get to the third book in a little bit. So definitely excited for this one.
Roll number 3. 15. For 15, I have to roll a d20 again to determine which prompt. That is a 16.
Okay, roll number 3 got me a 15, which is the Sprite Forest. It says, sprites build little villages in the boughs of trees and willing trance? Massive tree-like monsters. In verdant glades brightened by moss, wildflowers, and toadstools. Wild nature thrives, and the sprites allow no trespassers. Completely unaware, you stomp into this forest. A swarm of 500 sprites and 5 treants begin to move into your line of sight out of the emerald shadows. They seem very angry. For this, I had to do another... For this, I had to roll another d20 to find out how I was going to handle the Sprite Forest. It was either below or above a 15 to determine the prompt, and I got a 16. Peacemaker. They lead you down a misty path where you're able to speak to the spirit of the forest. Walking down the lost and wandering misty path, you encounter memories that make you question who you are to test your character. Read a book where the main character is searching for meaning, for someone, or for a way home. And this prompt with completion comes with 45,000 XP. And for this, I am choosing to read Broken Fae by the Twisted Sisters. It's the 4th book in the Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac series. The Twisted Sisters are Caroline Peckham and Suzanne Valenti. So the premise of this series is that our main character, Elise, is going to this Fae Academy because her brother has died. She believes it was a murder, and she wants to find out who killed her brother. So when she gets to this academy, she meets the 4 kings of Aurora Academy, who all are kind of connected to her brother in some way. She's trying to figure out who killed him. And it goes from there. She has romances with each of them, so it is a reverse harem of sorts. And she's kind of sucked into their orbit and is trying to balance finding out what happened with her brother with her feelings for each of these men. I am going to be honest, I didn't love the 3rd book. I thought it was pretty long and that not a whole lot happened, and I wasn't super excited with where things were going, but I have 2 books left in this series and I'd really like to finish it so that I can continue on in reading the Zodiac Academy series by the Twisted Sisters and work through the rest of those books next year. So I'd really like to finish these 2 before the end of the year. So I will be reading Broken Fae, which is number 4, to fulfill the prompt for a character who is searching for something. Elise is looking for who killed her brother, and there's that mystery in the background of these books. So that is what I will be reading for the Sprite Forest prompt.
We're going to do one more roll for good measure. 1. Okay, my last roll got me 1, which is main quest, which also allows me to roll a d10 for a side quest. So I'm going to do that. I got a 3.
And for my last main prompt roll, I got number 1, which is main quest. Continuing on the main journey for your character. This is a pivotal time to collect experience, see what monsters you will encounter, Your head is clear. Due to your current zeal and preparedness, you feel prepared to take on whatever is next. So the prompt is a highly anticipated read or book from the top of your TBR list. And for this, I am picking The Book of Azrael by Amber V. Nicole. This is a book I have been meaning to read for a long time. I've heard pretty much nothing but good things, so I'm very excited about it. And now the graphic audiobook for this first book is out, so I am hoping to read it kind of tandem read with the book itself as well as the audiobooks. And so the blurb on the back says, "For 1,000 years after the gods' war, the ether world has known peace, but soon that too will change. An old enemy driven by revenge slowly builds an army behind the scenes. Temples are being ransacked in search of an item long lost, and enemies since the dawn of time must put aside their differences if they have any hope for survival." So I've tried to not learn too much about this book just because it is so hyped, and I want to go into it and just be open to hopefully really loving it. I do know that most people say it's a really true enemies to lovers, that the female main character is the morally gray one, and then I think the male main character is like a king or a god or something like that. But yes, Diana, the female main character, is the morally gray one, which I am looking forward to reading about. So that last prompt also came with the option to do a side quest. So you roll a d10 for that. I got a 3, which is the Blood Fury tattoo. The tattoo has 10 charges, and it regains all expended charges daily at dawn. While this tattoo is on your skin, you gain the ability to do necrotic damage. Prompt is to read a book featuring blood or a character that has a tattoo. Featuring blood could be a vampire book, a horror, dark romance, etc. For this book, I'm going to read They Never Learn by Lane Fargo. This is a thriller book, kind of a dark academia setting, I think, or at least the female main character is a professor at a university, and each fall she picks a man to off based on something that he's done. This is another book I've been wanting to read for a long time, but I figure that a thriller with a theme of murder is a good one for fulfilling this prompt to do with blood or darkness in the book. So I don't know too much about it, but all I really needed to know was that it's a bit of a female revenge, good for her, I support women's rights and wrongs book. So I look forward to finally getting to that book. Okay, finally, I'm just going to go over my buzzword prompts for my yearly challenge that I participate in. The prompt for November for the regular buzzword prompt is the word never, so it has to be in the title. For this, I'm going to use They Never Learn by Lane Fargo. Keep it short and sweet, and like I said, I'm really excited to finally read that book. And then the buzzword cover challenge, the prompt is to read a book with a cover featuring food and or drink. I am reading a book called High Rising for a small book club I have with a few family members. We started this book club a couple years ago and it kind of fizzled out, but before that happened, my grandmother had picked this book for us to read, and she has actually since passed away. So we decided when starting the book club up again that we would read that book in honor of her as our first book in the revamped book club. So I believe it's kind of maybe a Regency era or some sort of historical setting in England book, and is about, but it's a little bit of a Christmas book. It's set in a small English village and follows, I think, kind of the social interactions and relationships between the characters within this English society setting. So I'm looking forward to, I think it'll be kind of cozy. I know some people have already started it and they said that there is some good kind of humor and wit in this book that's reminiscent of Jane Austen. So I am looking forward to reading that. I forgot to mention with High Rising, I'll put the cover here, but it's got a little apple on it. It's for the publisher. I think it's their symbol. I'm going to count it. Okay, and finally, I'm just going to go over a few books from my physical TBR that I'm hoping to get to this month. So November is considered Native American Heritage Month in the US where I live. It is also a prompt for her kid to read a book by an Indigenous author within that month. It doesn't have to be within it, but I'm trying to do all of them within the month that they're celebrated. I love reading books for like within the month of particular celebrations. So like Pride books in June, and really specifically focusing on Black authors during February for Black History Month. And so I am hoping to really focus on reading a couple of books by Indigenous authors in November. It's definitely important to read diversely outside of those months of celebration, but it is a good reminder for me, and as a seasonal reader, I really appreciate just the organizational aspect of reading and focusing on those books during those particular months. So I have a few different options. I have The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones is a book I want to read. It's on my horror bingo TBR. That's a bit of a spoiler. I think I'm going to do a video for my horror bingo TBR, and that will come out after this video, but I do want to read that. I have owned and have wanted to read Killers of the Flower Moon for a very long time. If you haven't noticed a pattern in this video, there are books that have been on my TBR, whether it's my physical TBR or my mental TBR, for a long time. There's just too many books and not enough time, but this one is a nonfiction, and it's nonfiction, and I have not read a singular nonfiction book all the way through this year, and that comes from a variety of things. Just the world has felt really heavy this year, and so it is really easy for me to want to lean into the escapism that is fiction, and I've really enjoyed doing that, but I am missing reading my nonfiction and using my brain to learn some things. And that's not to say that you can't learn things from fiction. I'm a huge believer in the idea that fiction promotes creativity and empathy and understanding other people. But sometimes I treat nonfiction books, I like to read them on the audiobook, and I treat them kind of like podcasts, ways to learn about specific topics that I'm interested in. So, and I know the movie for this came out last year as well. It's, you know, been on my list for a long time, and so I'd really like to prioritize it, but we'll see if I'm in the mood for nonfiction in November. So I will probably read either of those. I want to go on my full Jane Austen journey. I love Jane Austen storylines. I love Pride and Prejudice. I grew up watching the 1995 version. I love both of the main versions for different reasons. I love her other stories. I've seen a ton of different adaptations for her stories, but I have never read any of the books all the way through. I tried reading Pride and Prejudice as a kid, and I just couldn't get into the language, but I really want to make it a goal to read through all of her books. I own all of them, and it's a very big goal of mine. So I wanted to start with Persuasion. The story of Persuasion is one of my favorites of hers. I love kind of the second chance trope in romance books. It's pretty short, so I think I can get through it pretty easily. I think this might actually, I could be totally wrong, but I think this might actually be her first novel that was published, and it is a second chance story. It has some of my favorite Jane Austen quotes in it, and I'm excited to get started on that journey as soon as I can. So I will be reading Persuasion in November. One strategy I really like to read classics is to find like a full cast or kind of like that graphic audio style of audiobook where it's got, you know, a full cast, or, you know, there's sounds in the background so you can kind of hear the environment and there's more sound effects and that kind of thing. I did that when I reread Little Women a couple of years ago and loved that experience. So I'm going to try and find either a full cast or some sort of more dynamic audiobook to read, to tandem read this book. And then finally, a couple other physical TBR books I want to prioritize in November. I want to get to Silver Elite. This is a debut book. I've heard kind of mixed things about this, but some of the booktubers I love really enjoyed this book. It is a dystopian, and after reading To Cage a Wild Bird last month, I'm really trying to get back into my dystopian era from when I was kind of a tween and early teen. So I'm excited for this one. And then finally, I want to read Hidden Truths by, I think it's Neva Altai, could be Neva, but this is in a dark romance series that I love, has really good disability representation. They're mafia books, but I am subscribed to the Patreon of Jen from the Book Refuge, and she is annotating this series for me, and this is the first one I received from her. So I'm excited to read this book and go through all of her annotations as I read it and see how I feel about this one. This is the third in the series, and I've heard so many good things about this series as a whole, and I have enjoyed the first two. So hoping to read through this one this month as well. Okay, so that is what I have so far for you for my November TBR. I'm sure I'll rearrange a few things and come up with more things to want to add to my lengthy list that I never get through, but I will post my full TBR of possibilities on Instagram as well. Thank you for watching this video, and please like and subscribe. It helps me as a new channel, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Let me know in the comments what you are prioritizing this month in November, and I will see you soon. Bye, friends.